The alarm on Medic Vreenie's biomonitor shrieked as the human was wheeled into the emergency bay. Three of her eyes widened while her fourth scanned the vitals display. The readings made no sense: blood pressure dropping, heartbeat erratic, oxygen levels plummeting, yet the human was conscious and talking. "Stop panicking, I'm fine," said the human, a male specimen with dark hair matted to his forehead. Blood bright red, iron-based, soaked through his clothing on the left side of his torso. Vreeni chittered nervously to her assistant, Graux. "Prepare the emergency resuscitation unit. We have a Class 1 hemorrhagic crisis." The human propped himself up on his elbows, wincing slightly. "Whoa, hold on. I just need a bandage and maybe a snack. I missed lunch." Vreenie's respiratory sacs inflated with shock. She had studied xenobiology for 15 cycles at the Galactic Medical Academy, specializing in carbon-based life forms, but nothing had prepared her for this. According to her readings, the human should be unconscious, possibly entering terminal decline. "You are experiencing catastrophic blood loss," she explained, her translator converting her clicks and whistles into standard human English. "Please remain still while we prepare emergency measures." The human, whose identification chip read Harrison Johnson, Earth Embassy staff, sighed. "Look, I appreciate the concern, but it's just a scratch. Happened when that shelf collapsed in the storage room. Metal edge caught me, that's all." Graux returned with the crash cart and emergency surgical suite. The tall, spindly alien's upper appendages were already covered in sterile barriers, the pale green of his skin barely visible beneath the protective covering. "Losing consciousness is the next stage," Vreeni informed the human as she prepared a sedative appropriate for his species. "Your physiology is different from ours, but death follows similar patterns across carbon-based life." "I'm not dying," Harrison insisted. "Trust me, I've had worse cuts shaving. Can I just get that bandage? And seriously, I'm starving." Vreeni and Graux exchanged a look of professional concern. The medical readouts continued to flash red warnings. According to their equipment, this human was in critical condition, yet he was behaving as if he had a minor injury. "We must begin transfusion immediately," Vreeni decided, pulling the synthesizer closer. Graux programmed the molecular assembler for human hemoglobin. Reference Earth Medical Protocol E7. Harrison sat up fully now, causing both aliens to gasp. "Please don't move." Graux's voice modulator vibrated with alarm. "You will accelerate blood loss and tissue damage." "Listen," Harrison said firmly. "I know you're trying to help, but you're overreacting. Humans are pretty sturdy. This is just a flesh wound." Vreeni consulted her medical database, confused by the discrepancy between the readings and the patient's behavior. Perhaps the equipment was malfunctioning, calibrated incorrectly for human physiology. But the Galactic Medical Center prided itself on being equipped to handle all sentient species in this sector. "Your blood pressure reading is 70/40, she explained, using human metrics. "That is dangerously low for your species." Harrison looked at the monitor and laughed, then immediately winced and pressed a hand to his side. "Your machine is broken. I'd be unconscious if that were true. Look, can I show you something?" Before either alien could stop him, Harrison pulled up his blood-soaked shirt. The wound was clearly visible, a laceration about 4 inches long along his ribcage. It was bleeding steadily but not spurting. "See, no arterial bleeding, just needs cleaning and closing, maybe a few stitches." Vreeni moved closer, her 4 eyes focusing on the injury. But the readings. She tapped the monitor with one of her upper limbs. Graux had already begun preparing the emergency surgical suite. The sterilization field hummed as it activated, bathing the area in soft blue light. "I believe," Graux ventured, "that the calibration may be affected by the human's unusual physiology. Their blood contains iron, not copper like most species we treat." Harrison nodded. "That's probably it. Look, I've had first aid training. This is a clean cut, maybe needs 10 stitches. And seriously, if you have any food around here, I'd really appreciate it. My blood sugar's probably low, which isn't helping." Vreeni hesitated. Her medical training emphasized caution, especially with unfamiliar species, yet the human seemed remarkably coherent for someone supposedly near death. "I will examine the wound directly," she decided, approaching with a sterilized probe. Her touch was gentle as she assessed the injury. The laceration is approximately 10 centimeters long, penetrating the epidermis and dermis, but appears to have spared deeper structures. "That's what I've been saying," Harrison said with obvious relief. "Just clean it, close it, and point me toward your cafeteria." Graux, still concerned, consulted the xenobiological database on his portable screen. "Humans do have remarkably efficient coagulation mechanisms," he noted. "And their blood volume is greater proportionally than many comparable species." Vreenie's professional pride was slightly wounded. She had never misdiagnosed a patient so dramatically before. "We will proceed with wound cleaning and closure," she announced, "but I insist on monitoring you for at least 1 hour afterward." "Deal," Harrison said, "as long as that monitoring includes a meal." While Graux prepared the appropriate antiseptics and suturing materials, Vreeni sent a message to the station's nutritional center requesting appropriate human sustenance. The response came back quickly. They had several Earth-compatible protein bars and hydration drinks on hand. Vreeni administered a local anesthetic around Harrison's wound. "This will numb the area. Please inform me if you feel any discomfort during the procedure." "Thanks," Harrison said, relaxing slightly as the medication took effect. "Sorry for being difficult." "It's just that I've dealt with this kind of thing before, and I knew I wasn't in real danger." As she cleaned the wound, Vreenie's curiosity got the better of her. "Your species appears to have a high tolerance for injuries that would incapacitate others. Is this typical?" Harrison thought about it. "I guess we're pretty resilient in some ways. Our ancestors had to survive all kinds of injuries while hunting or fighting, so we evolved good healing capabilities. But we're not superhuman or anything." Graux, who had been recalibrating the biomonitor, announced, "I have adjusted the parameters to account for human baseline values. The readings now show elevated stress response, but confirm the patient is not in immediate danger." Vreeni felt a mixture of relief and embarrassment. "I apologize for the error. We rarely treat humans at this facility." "No worries," Harrison said, watching with interest as she prepared to close his wound. "Better to overreact than underreact in medicine, right?" "Indeed." Vreenie's professional demeanor returned as she began the precise work of suturing the laceration. Her 4 eyes gave her excellent depth perception, and her slender fingers worked with remarkable precision. A service bot arrived with a tray containing several wrapped items and a bottle. "Human-compatible nutrition as requested," it announced before departing. Harrison's eyes lit up. "Perfect timing. Mind if I eat while you work? I wasn't kidding about being hungry." Graux hesitated. "Is it safe for humans to eat during medical procedures?" "As long as I'm not under general anesthesia, it's fine," Harrison assured him. "This is just a local numbing agent, right?" Vreeni nodded. "Correct. The anesthetic affects only the immediate area around the wound." Graux unwrapped one of the protein bars and handed it to Harrison's unoccupied hand. The human took a large bite and sighed with obvious satisfaction. "Much better. My blood sugar was tanking." He took another bite, then asked, "So do you get many human patients here?" "You are the third I have personally treated," Vreeni replied, carefully placing another suture. "The Nexus station only recently opened to human travelers following the trade agreements. The others were not as resilient as you," Graux added, monitoring Harrison's vitals on the recalibrated equipment. "One fainted at the sight of their own blood after a minor hand injury." Harrison laughed, then winced again. "Yeah, we vary a lot in how we handle injuries. Some people pass out from a paper cut, others can walk around with broken bones. I'm somewhere in the middle." As Vreeni continued suturing, she found herself fascinated by human physiology. The wound was already showing signs of inflammatory response, the first stage of healing. The human body was actively working to repair itself even as she assisted with the process. "Your cellular regeneration rate is impressive," she noted. "With proper care, this wound should heal completely within 14 to 21 Earth days." "Sounds about right," Harrison agreed, finishing the protein bar and reaching for a second one. "So what made your equipment think I was dying? Was it really just calibrated wrong? Graux, who had been analyzing the initial readings, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The iron content in your blood confused our sensors. They interpreted the readings as severe copper deficiency, which would be fatal to most species we commonly treat. Ah, Harrison nodded. Iron-based versus copper-based blood, classic sci-fi distinction. Vreeni tilted her head. Sci-fi. Science fiction, Harrison explained. Human entertainment about space, aliens, that sort of thing. Before we actually met aliens, we liked to imagine what you might be like. The blood thing was a common detail. Fascinating, Vreeni said, placing the final suture. There, the wound is closed. I will now apply a protective dressing. She selected an advanced healing patch from their supplies, one designed to be compatible with multiple species. It would keep the wound clean while promoting cellular regeneration. This should stay in place for at least 3 days, she instructed as she applied it. Keep the area dry. If you notice increased pain, redness extending beyond the immediate area, or any discharge, return immediately. Harrison nodded, looking down at the neat bandaging job. Thanks. Much better than what I would have managed on my own. Vreeni stepped back, satisfied with her work. You will need to have the sutures removed in approximately 10 Earth days. Can you return to this facility, or would you prefer to see a human physician? I'll come back here, Harrison said, pulling his shirt down carefully over the bandage. The Earth Embassy medical staff is always swamped, plus you guys have better snacks. He held up the wrapper from the protein bar with a smile. Graux seemed pleased by this. We are expanding our human-compatible offerings in anticipation of increased human presence on the station. Harrison swung his legs over the side of the medical bed, moving cautiously. So, am I free to go, or do you still need to monitor me for that hour? Vreeni checked the readings once more. Your vital signs are now within normal parameters for your species. However, I would prefer you remain under observation for at least 30 minutes to ensure there are no delayed reactions to the anesthetic. Fair enough, Harrison agreed. Mind if I ask you some questions while we wait? I don't often get to chat with alien medical professionals. I have no objections, Vreeni said, settling onto her rest perch. What would you like to know? How did you get into xenomedicine? It must be challenging dealing with so many different species. Vreeni's skin flushed a deeper, blue, her species equivalent of a pleased expression. I found the diversity of life forms fascinating from a young age. On my homeworld, we have many different sentient species coexisting. It seemed natural to pursue a career where I could help all of them. The challenge is what makes it rewarding, Graux added. Each new species presents unique puzzles to solve. Harrison nodded. I can imagine. Earth medicine is complicated enough just dealing with humans. What brought you to Nexus Station? Vreeni inquired, her curiosity piqued. I work for the Earth Embassy as a cultural liaison. My job is to help smooth relations between humans and other species, prevent misunderstandings, that sort of thing. Harrison grimaced slightly. Though I'm not setting a great example today, bleeding all over your medical bay. On the contrary, Vreeni countered, this has been an educational experience. We have already updated our systems to better accommodate human physiology based on your case. Harrison looked pleased. Glad to be of service then. The conversation continued pleasantly as Harrison finished his snack and Graux monitored his recovery. Vreeni found herself increasingly intrigued by humans. They seemed both fragile and remarkably resilient simultaneously. After 30 minutes had passed, Vreeni performed one final scan. Your condition appears stable. You are cleared to leave, but please restrict physical activity for the next 48 hours to allow the wound edges to stabilize. Will do, Harrison promised, standing carefully. And seriously, thank you both. Sorry for the panic I caused. It is better to err on the side of caution, Vreeni assured him. Your well-being is our priority. As Harrison prepared to leave, Graux presented him with a small package. Additional human-compatible nutrition and a spare wound dressing, should you need it. Harrison accepted the package with genuine gratitude. Thanks, I appreciate it. After the human had departed, Vreeni and Graux began cleaning the treatment area according to protocol. An interesting species, Graux commented, sterilizing the instruments. Indeed, Vreeni agreed. updating Harrison's medical file with detailed notes about the encounter. I believe I should review our human physiology protocols more thoroughly. Their resilience is remarkable but could lead to dangerous misunderstandings. Like assuming they are dying when they merely require a bandage and nutrition. Graux's voice modulator produced a sound approximating humor. Precisely. Vreenie's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, her species' version of a smile. Medicine is always evolving. Today, we learned an important lesson about interspecies differences. 3 days later, Harrison returned to the medical bay for a wound check. Vreeni was pleased to see him walking normally, showing no signs of discomfort. "How is the injury healing?" she asked as she guided him to an examination bed. "Really well," Harrison replied. "Almost no pain now, and I've been following your instructions about keeping it dry." Vreeni carefully removed the dressing to examine the wound. The sutures were holding nicely, and the human's skin was already beginning to knit together around them. There was no sign of infection or complications. "Excellent progress," she noted, applying a fresh dressing. "Your species' healing capacity continues to impress me." "I've been doing some reading about your species too," Harrison mentioned. "Fascinating respiratory system. You have the multiple gas exchange chambers are brilliant for adaptability." Vreeni was surprised and pleased by his interest. Most non-medical professionals find xenophysiology tedious. "Part of my job is understanding different species," Harrison explained. "It helps prevent misunderstandings. Like the blood thing now, I know why your equipment went haywire when I came in." "We have since recalibrated all our systems," Vreeni assured him. "Any human patient will now receive accurate assessment." "Good to hear. Mind if I bring some colleagues by sometime, not for treatment, just to meet you? I think it would help build better relations between our species." "I would welcome that," Vreeni said, finishing with the dressing. Cultural exchange benefits everyone. Over the following weeks, Harrison made several more visits to the medical bay, first for his suture removal, then accompanying other human embassy staff for informal meetings. Each visit strengthened the understanding between the species, and Vreeni found herself becoming something of an expert on human physiology. 1 month after Harrison's injury, he arrived with a small package. "A thank you gift," he explained, presenting it to Vreeni. "From Earth." Inside was a medical text, a comprehensive guide to human emergency medicine, specially annotated with comparisons to common galactic species. "This is extremely valuable," Vreeni said, all 4 of her eyes widening in appreciation. "Thank you." "Least I could do after you saved my life," Harrison said with a grin. "Or at least thought you were saving my life." Vreenie's skin flushed blue with embarrassment, but she appreciated the human's good humor about the situation. "Perhaps someday I will visit Earth and see your medical facilities," she ventured. "You'd be more than welcome," Harrison assured her. "Though I should warn you, some of our doctors might panic if they saw your 4 eyes and blue skin the way you panicked over my iron-based blood." They both laughed at this, the sound of their very different vocal apparatuses creating an unusual harmony in the medical bay. 6 months later, Vreeni found herself in the position of instructor, leading a seminar for the medical staff on Nexus Station about human physiology and emergency care. Harrison attended as a guest speaker, his now fully healed injury serving as a case study in cultural and medical misunderstandings. "The most important lesson," Vreeni told her colleagues, "is not to make assumptions based on our own physiological norms. What appears catastrophic in one species may be routine in another. And vice versa," Harrison added. "What seems minor to us might be life-threatening to you. Communication is key." After the seminar, Graux approached them both. "We have had 3 more human patients since your visit, Ambassador Johnson. None caused quite the alarm you did." "Glad to hear it," Harrison laughed. "Though I'm still sorry about bleeding all over your nice, clean medical bay." "It led to significant improvements in our protocols," Vreeni assured him. "Your minor injury has potentially saved many lives by highlighting the need for species-specific calibration." "Well, when you put it that way, I'm almost glad that shelf collapsed on me," Harrison said. "Almost." Later that evening, Vreeni and Harrison sat in the station's observation lounge, watching the swirl of a nearby nebula through the massive viewport. Their professional relationship had evolved into a friendship based on mutual respect and fascination with each other's differences. "You know," Harrison said thoughtfully, "when humans first started exploring space in fiction, we always imagined aliens would either try to conquer us or would be so advanced they'd barely notice us. And instead, you found us panicking over your blood chemistry," Vreeni observed with good humor. "Exactly, reality is always more interesting than fiction." Harrison took a sip from his drink, "and usually less dramatic. Though there are exceptions," Vreeni noted. "Your entrance to our medical bay was quite dramatic." "Fair point." Harrison smiled, then grew more serious. "The exchange program wants to send some human medical professionals to train here. Would you be willing to help coordinate that?" Vreeni's 4 eyes widened with interest. "I would be honored. The exchange of medical knowledge benefits everyone." "That's what I told them you'd say." Harrison raised his glass. "To interspecies cooperation and not freaking out over a little blood." Vreeni raised her own beverage container. "And to humans who maintain their appetite even when medical professionals believe they are dying." Their laughter mingled in the observation lounge, a testament to bridges built through misunderstanding and clarification. 1 year to the day after Harrison's memorable first visit to the medical bay, Nexus Station inaugurated its first dedicated human treatment center, with Vreeni appointed as head xenophysician. The center featured properly calibrated equipment, human-compatible medications, and even a small food dispensary, a detail Harrison had specifically requested. During the opening ceremony, Harrison stood beside Vreeni as she addressed the gathered dignitaries from both human and non-human worlds. "Medicine transcends species boundaries," she said, her translator conveying her clicks and whistles into multiple languages simultaneously. "What began with a single human patient requesting a bandage and a snack has evolved into this facility, a place where humans can receive care tailored to their unique physiology." Harrison stepped forward when invited to speak. The scar on his side was long healed, but the story had become something of a legend among the station's medical staff. "Sometimes the greatest understanding comes from moments of misunderstanding," he told the audience. "When Dr. Vreeni thought I was dying and all I wanted was a snack, we both learned something valuable about each other's species. That learning continues today with this center, which will serve as a model for similar facilities throughout the galaxy." After the ceremony, as they walked through the new facility together, Vreeni reflected on how far they had come. "Your species continues to surprise me," she admitted to Harrison. "Just when I think I understand human physiology, I discover new complexities." "That's the beauty of different evolutionary paths," Harrison replied. "We developed on completely different worlds, yet here we are working together learning from each other." "Indeed." Vreeni paused by a window overlooking the stars. "And to think it all began with a misdiagnosis and your request for food. Some of the best relationships start with misunderstandings," Harrison observed. "It forces us to explain ourselves to really communicate." "A wise observation," Vreeni agreed. "Perhaps we should include that philosophy in our training materials." As they continued their tour, other staff members joined them, both human and non-human, each bringing unique perspectives and expertise to the new center. What had once been a source of alarm and confusion had transformed into a foundation for cooperation and understanding. In her private research journal that evening, Vreeni made a note that would later become famous in xenomedicine textbooks. "The true measure of advanced medicine is not merely in treating illness or injury, but in understanding the fundamental differences between species while recognizing our universal desire for care and respect. Sometimes, what one species considers a medical emergency, another views as an inconvenience remedied by a simple bandage and nutrition. In acknowledging these differences, we find our common ground." The incident that had once embarrassed her, professionally, had become the cornerstone of her most important work, creating truly universal medical protocols that respected the unique physiologies of all sentient species while providing appropriate care for each. And it had all started with a bleeding human who, despite readings that suggested imminent death, had simply asked for a bandage and a snack.